Okay, we are live on Facebook, and this is John Mercer, the president of Las Vegas Tri Club, and I've got Bob Gamble, ambassador for the Tri Club, and we are here to do a member spotlight with our Rookie Point Series 2019 winner, Ethan Klein, also an ambassador for the Las Vegas Tri Club. Hey, Ethan, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing good.
We're good.
I'm going to turn it over to Bob Gamble, and I want Bob to do an introduction and get this conversation going because you're on the road to San Diego right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, this is amazing. Ethan's driving down the road doing an interview. He's multitasking real well. I was with Ethan. I was with Ethan whenever he first joined the club.
What's that?
And go ahead, say again, Ethan.
Oh, go. You go ahead. Sorry.
I was with Ethan when he first joined the club, and we were talking about his earlier career, and he was saying he was a swimmer, and it was funny. He was telling me some of his times, and I said, some of his collegiate swim times. And I said, those are 50-meter times? And he goes, no, that's 100. And it just made me laugh like crazy. This guy is so fast in the water. He's just amazing. So Ethan, we know, comes from a collegiate swimming background, and he's generally first out of the water on our club races as well as the some of the BBSC races. What's interesting about Ethan is he very first race he was in, it was essentially his first race, or the Tri Club race. He came in third overall, and then in his very first BBSC sprint race, which was Rage, he was first in his age group. So it's going to be interesting talking to Ethan. Ethan, we're going to pick his brain a little bit about what makes him so fast, what he thought about his first season. So Ethan, you came in points series way ahead of all the other rookies. You won the 2019 points champion, and you made everybody go, who the heck is this guy? So tell us about your first season. What did you enjoy about it? And what struck you?
Really what struck me was the camaraderie in the sport. I think it's way different coming from a swimming background where everyone is swimming against each other, and it's whoever gets the hand on the wall first is what you're going to win. And you're so like time standard oriented that it's a lot more, I guess, cutthroat. It's still fun and everything, but it's a lot more. Not to say that triathlon's not serious, but it's a lot more friendly, I feel like. And everyone I met in the Tri Club in the first month or two was like, what do you need help with? Like, how can we help you? You want to come train with us? Like, you're new on the bike, you want to come bike ride with us? Like, the very first person, I think, was Rick. He took me on a bike ride from his house over down into Red Rock Canyon and back, and I was like, all right, I'm hooked. Like, this is great. I like riding. I was borrowing my dad's bike. Like, it was fun. So, I think a lot more camaraderie is what I learned that's different. That's been really good. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's like a triathlete will not pass you on the side of the road without asking you if you got everything you need and if you're okay.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. That's the reason we all love triathletes so much, or triathlon so much. On your first race, what was it like when obviously you're fast in the water? Tell me, what is your 100-meter time? What's your best 100-meter time?
I wasn't a sprinter, so in comparison, my 100-meter long course was 53.
53 seconds in a 100-meter.
Yeah, 50 in a 50-meter pool. And then yards, I think I was a 45 was my fastest.
Yeah, and that's why I was thinking those were your 100-meter times. That's funny.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you came out of the water in your first race and you got on your bike? Because I remember seeing your bike. We talked about it. It was your dad's bike. It was heavy.
Yeah.
It must have weighed 35 pounds.
It was like a 2010 Trek Madone, and all aluminum, but it had two wheels.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know how far ahead. I was 2 weeks out of my collegiate swimming career. So I finished conference championships on March 3rd, and I think we raced March 24th. So once we got back from conference, I took off a couple days, just because after a season, we've been training nonstop since August. So I needed a few days to mentally decompress. But I got back on. I really didn't swim a whole lot. I focused on biking and trying to run, which was interesting. So I never really rode the course before that race, and everyone said it'd be hilly. I was like, I'll be fine. Like, I'm in some of the best shape of my life right now just from swimming, and I was wrong for sure. I think John caught me before the first hill, and just flew by me. I was like, well, I'll keep racing, and then I just kept slowly getting caught. And then running for sure got me. Running that hill for the first, but I finished, and I was hooked after that. So,
well, for you to finish as well as you did, I mean, most people come off the bike for their very first race, they take 2 steps and fall down. So it's like you just did absolutely amazing.
Well, let me jump in and say on that race, I do remember biking along, and I'm like, where is this guy? Where is he? Where? It was pretty amazing. You've got a really strong swim background, and great that transitions over to open water, because not every swimmer in the pool can do well out in open water. So that's really impressive that you can transition.
That's right.
Well, I think what benefited me there was that I was a distance swimmer, so I swam the mile regularly at every meet, probably for the last 5 years in college and high school. And when I was in high school, our distance group would sign up in the summer. Grew up in Arizona, Scottsdale, Phoenix area. Swam for Scottsdale Aquatic Club. But every year, the distance group, they have a open water series at like there's 4 or 5 surrounding lakes surrounding the Vegas, Phoenix Valley. So they have an open water race series, and so we would do the 2K or the 5K it was probably 4 races. So I've been swimming open water, which helped our pool training, but also it transitioned to triathlon pretty well. So
yeah, no, that was awesome. What was so did you swim the 1650 or was it 1500? Yeah. So what was your 1650?
1650, my best was a 1528.
Oh my gosh.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my best. I think that was my sophomore year. And then I was right around that during my junior and senior years. But once you get in college, it's hard to start dropping time once you get older. So
that's great.
Yeah, I can't wait to have some clinics with you. And there's no doubt in my mind that you can look at people and spot some things that, I mean, we all do wrong, so are you going to be up for that?
Yeah, I'm down. We can get some pool space.
That's going to be good. You're going to love it. The other thing that I wanted to point out was whenever you came out for your second club race, you had an 8-minute PR. Where did that time come from? Where did you make up 8 minutes? I mean, that's huge.
Probably on the bike. I remember that race. It was in June. I got a tri-bike, my first tri-bike, 4 days before the race. And not to say that the tri-bike made the difference, because I'd been biking nonstop for 2 months. So I think I made up 6 minutes on the bike, and then of course the run training probably increased as well. But yeah, it has a lot to do with my bike and run.
Were you doing any work running off of the bike?
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of bricks. I was biking to and from campus because I was still in school. So I would bike to and from campus. I actually got the route from John. I was doing that 3-4 times a week to add an extra 17 miles every day. So it added up.
So you made took advantage of some, maybe not the best situation, and you were cycling to school, cycling to work. How does that translate now? I mean, you've got some weird situations with the conditions that we have right now, and not being able to go to a pool. How are you changing your training now?
I'm focused on my weakness. That's my running. Biking, I can hold my own. I believe, at least, until Luigi blows by me. But I've been running a lot. This is actually the longest time I've been out of the pool since I was probably 6 years old, which is weird for me. But my goal in April was to run 150 miles, which to a runner might not seem like a lot. But for me, that was a lot. And that would add it up to close to 40 miles a week, if not more than that. And my goal was to kind of break down my feet and my knees to make them more like a runner's instead of a swimmer's. Because this might not be scientifically correct, but it's more based on personal feel. Swimming makes your joints more mobile, and you have a lot more flexibility in your joints. Whereas, like, when you start running, it kind of locks in those joints a little bit. And I could be completely off scientifically, but I just know I have very loose ankles, and that doesn't translate well to running, for me at least. So I wanted to kind of work my feet, work my knees a little bit, almost to the point where I was not going to get injured, but I was really tired. And so I did that. I also ran a marathon, my first marathon during the month, which was fun. And I think that it actually has boosted my running a lot. So my heart rate during my runs has dropped, and which is going to help me when I do my first full, hopefully in November.
Wow, awesome.
Well, and that was impressive to do a marathon on your own. That was really and a great time too. What, you're 3:18 or?
And, it's got an asterisk next to it, because I would I had my aid station at my house, so I'd stop for a drink, or I'd run on the street. I'd get stopped by stoplights, so it wasn't like it was a straight up 3:18. I think my total time was right around 3.5. So
That's awesome. That is awesome. I was really, and to do that on your own, I mean, that takes some good mental fortitude. So really, really awesome.
Yeah. One thing that you said that I was glad to hear is that you actually were focused a little bit on your injury prevention, because, that's going to be hard on your joints. So you run, but you still are careful,
right?
Not to overdo, not to hammer your joints.
Yeah, and I learned this when I was young, when I was playing football, actually, is there's a difference between hurt and injured. If you're hurt, you can kind of work through it. It might just be muscle soreness or joint tightness or a little bit of aches and pains, which is going to come with hard training. But there's a threshold where it's injury, and you need to back off when you're injured instead of just hurt. So that's kind of stuck with me from when I was playing football when I was a kid. So
yeah, good advice. So what do you have up for the summer? Oh, wait, you know what? We didn't really hit something that we skipped over a little bit. How are you training now that, with the lockdowns and the restrictions, and are you able to, have you been swimming?
Nope. I haven't touched the pool since early March.
What about the lake?
Nope.
What about
the lake yet?
Yeah.
Nope,
I'm heading out there tomorrow.
Yeah, I wish. I'm probably going to go in the middle of May. But yeah, I haven't touched the lake. I haven't touched the pool. I've been doing some strength training to keep my arms, my upper body in check. So simple push-ups and some free weight. So I have like 8-pound dumbbells or 15-pound dumbbells in my backyard. I do some shoulder press. But
good.
yeah, I've really just been running. I haven't really been biking a whole lot either. I've been focusing a lot on the run. More or less just staying healthy rather than trying to stay race fit. I think if you try to stay race fit for too long, it takes a toll on your mind. And that's actually why a lot of swimmers burn out. They're ready to race at any given time for 8 years, and it takes a toll on you. And when you only take 2 weeks off at the end of every season, so twice a year, that it's not enough time to recuperate, I think. So
that is so smart.
Yeah.
And the fact that you are staying healthy and fit as opposed to preparing for a race that can absolutely burn you out. That's when most people get injured, is when they're preparing for a race, a particular race, and they cram their training and they got to get this done. They got to get this done because they want to hit a time. And you're so smart to focus on health and not getting injured. And instead of constantly increasing. That's awesome.
Hey, I forgot, let me jump in, Bob. I got a question on his swimming background, how it's translated over to triathlon. Okay, so compare and contrast what you think about before the start gun during your 1650 versus standing on the beach before a sprint race, or even before Indian Wells 70.3. What's going through your mind in each of those situations before the gun goes off?
So for the 1650 or even the 500, for any race in the pool, it's yeah, the 1650 was long distance, but it's still a sprint in comparison to a sprint triathlon. It's 16 minutes as compared to an hour. So it's a little different. Actually, it did change quite a bit throughout the year. My first few races, I knew I wasn't as strong on the bike or the run, but I knew my cardio was good enough to where I could hold on. I wouldn't completely hit the wall and cave, but my paces just weren't as good as everyone else's because I wasn't trained. So I would swim all out. That was my plan. And then fast forward a few months to Indian Wells, I was the second person in the water, and I knew my plan was to just swim in the front group. I didn't need to go all out. By then, I knew I had a good bike plan. Me and my coach Max Jones, we'd worked out a good bike plan and a good run plan. So I knew that my swim was going to be there. I didn't need to go all out like I was earlier in the year, and then just die more or less in the 13-mile run. So my plan was to just swim in the front pack. And about 300 in, I kind of looked around and I was by myself. And I was swimming easy. So I was like, okay, I guess this is how this is going to go. So I just kept swimming at the same pace, not really pushing it too hard. Because, I don't know, being a swimmer, you know when you're pushing too hard and when you've got a little more to give, it's going to be uncomfortable no matter what. But at the same time, you're going to, it's not going to not hurt. If it's not hurting, then you're not going right. I came out of the water first on that race and ended up catching some of the female pros that started like 8 minutes ahead of us, and which was interesting. But I don't know, I got out of the water and I just didn't really look back and just kept running the race. So the difference is that you're racing people in the swim, in the pool, whereas you're more or less just racing.
So at Indian Wells, you're at the start line, sort of going through your game plan in terms of your swim, and are you even thinking what you're going to do for the bike or the run at that point, or are you just focused on just waiting for that gun to go and looking around and seeing who's with you?
It was my first one too, so I was really just going for the experience. I wanted to see what it was like. Yeah, I wanted to do well, and my goal was to top out or top hour, however you pronounce it. But I was looking around, I was talking to people, and people are much nicer. If you try to talk to someone behind the blocks, it's a lot different. People talk to you when you're standing on the beach, which is cool. But mentally, I was kind of thinking about the whole race. I knew the swim would be about 25 minutes, and in 4.5 hours, that's nothing. So, I was really just planning for the whole race rather than just planning for one leg at a time.
That's great. And so you've got Ironman Arizona that you're targeting this year, and let's hope that that is still going to happen. I think that we're all sort of focusing on the positive part of which races will come up. What are you looking at for training? Like, when will you start sort of kicking it in for that, or do you feel like you're already building that base at this stage?
I think I'm definitely building my run base right now. I'll probably start serious training. I think me and Max had discussed July or August.
Yep.
Is when we're training. Now, who knows what's going to happen, right? I mean, I work in athletics at UNLV, and we have some contingencies on if we're going to be even playing football at a stadium. So if we're not running the race, then we'll see what happens. But yeah, I believe July or August is when we start.
That's right. We're getting into a dead spot there. You're, that's all right.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's all right. Yeah, no, you're good now. You're good. Yeah, so that's good. So you can really stay on your original training program at this point, for the most part. I mean, you're not swimming, but you've got everything else going, so that's great.
One thing that you get to keep in the back of your mind is that everyone's in the same boat that you are. You know, everyone has got the same kind of restrictions, so you don't have to, you know, kill yourself. You know that we're all, you know, doing the best we can with this. Well, one of the questions that I have, you know, what did you learn in your first year about nutrition? Are you a fat burner? You know, you train fasted, or have you worked out any kind of you know, gels or goos or anything like that? What do you do on your long rides and your long runs?
I've learned that my stomach is stronger than I thought. You know, I don't get a lot of uneasiness from what I eat, which has been good. I don't really have anything that has upset my stomach as of yet. But yeah, I do a carbohydrate when I'm doing a long training ride. And it's pretty basic for me. I don't go, I have to have a certain thing. I switch it up, because if I do the same thing, it gets boring. So I don't really have anything too specific. For the race, I have a calorie goal. But other than that, it's nothing too crazy. So.
What about stretching? Is there anything else you picked up on your first year that was like a big aha, that was like, hey, this works? Anything else that you can share with us?
One thing I learned is that I don't need to swim as much, but that's personal. That might be different from person to person. One thing I was doing was I was still training like a swimmer, whereas that really didn't translate to being a triathlete. So I had kind of sets I was doing in the pool were still training me to be able to swim a mile in a pool, not really open water, and then go and bike and run for another 3 hours after that. So that was an adjustment period for sure. And then really I kind of learned just that you go through a series of peaks and valleys in triathlon and in endurance racing in general. There's times where you're going to be in a really dark spot, hurting a lot, and then there's times where you're going to feel great within the same race. And so that doesn't really happen a whole lot with swimming, because if you're dying in a 500, you're probably not coming back from that. You know, if you go out too hard in a mile in the first 500, you're going to feel it around the 1100 mark, and you've got a 500 to go, and either you're strong up here or you're toast. So that's what I've learned a lot. If you can get through the hard parts of a triathlon, you feel good again eventually, for the most part.
All right, that's good.
Well, I think being a high level swimmer, really, you've brought that mindset to the triathlon world, and clearly your swim is strong, but your swim bike combo has become really strong, and now your run is really come along. I mean, you've really progressed. It was really a lot of fun to watch your first real year in triathlon, see you progress from your first race, and I imagine your gear has changed along the way as well. But I think I'm going to bring up that picture and embarrass you a little bit here. So let's see what we got.
Yeah, let's do it.
I was looking at your Facebook, and I went back to the 2010 pictures, and there we are. That's our. Let's see. Is the picture up? Can I see?
It's up on my screen.
Am I sharing the right part of the screen? Bob, can you see?
You are. I can see it. I'm not sure how big everyone can see this. I expanded it on my screen, and I don't know if that translates into Zoom or not.
Yeah, well,
okay,
got it.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay, you're the tall one on our right. So,
yep.
Right. Yeah.
That was my technically my first triathlon in Phoenix. I used to do. My dad was a cyclist, and my mom was a runner when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And so this race was in Lake Pleasant, Arizona, and it was I don't remember the month at all, but I remember the kid next to me. He is 2 years younger than me. He actually ended up swimming for the University of Georgia, which is a top 10 program as a distance swimmer as well. And so we actually used to cycle a lot because our dads used to bike a lot together. So we had little youth bikes, and it's a lake swim and a lake course. So it's a lot like Lake Mead, where the hills and everything.
Yeah.
And we came out of the water 1-2, I think, as little 12-year-olds, which was a lot of fun. We didn't have wetsuits or anything. But then we got killed on the bike on the run because we were 12. And he was even younger than I was. He's 11 in that picture.
Okay.
So.
Well, I love the sign behind you, launch at your own risk. So that's that's a great metaphor. So that's neat that your folks got you into triathlon even back then. So has your dad done a race with you?
He, not with me. He's not much of a swimmer. My mom was the swimmer, and she got us into it. Yeah. So he's actually working out some knee issues, but he's going to do a duathlon here pretty soon when we open back up. So I told him I'd do it with him, and he's got his bike back since I got my own.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
What are you riding now?
I'm on a 2012 Cervelo.
Nice.
2. Nothing fancy. I don't have carbon wheels. It's just, it goes. So that's all that matters. No power meter or anything. Just going for it.
Well, we got to get you set up with a power meter so you can tap into that knowledge too, because I think you're on just a really fun trajectory to watch your triathlon career take off, and really neat to see you springboard from the UNLV swim team to doing as high level competition. And I really appreciate you still doing all the tri club events. It's really neat to have high level athletes like you being part of that. So that's been great.
I love them.
Hey, Ethan, I have another question for you.
Yep.
You've done 3 so far, 3 different distances: the sprint, the Olympic, and the half. Which one do you enjoy the most?
The half.
That was real quick.
Yeah, the half for sure, and that's why I think I'm going to do the full, and that's going to be my favorite distance as well. I've always been someone that likes a mental challenge as well as a physical one, and I like pushing myself past limits that I didn't know I had. And that first half, there was definitely a time on the run. John saw me. He saw me in the middle of that, and I was not in a good spot, and I was hurting a lot. And I still remember what he said. He said, "You've got a problem. Solve it. Figure it out. Figure what you need to do and solve it." And I was halfway through. I was on the turnaround, so I had 6 miles to go, about 45 minutes, and that kind of got me out of that dark spot. It reminded me that I had a goo in my pocket, and that kind of got me to the finish. But I like that mental challenge of kind of really just problem solving or getting to the next spot. So that's why I think I'll like the full after that.
Well, you're one fortunate athlete because you got all the gifts. I mean, as far as physicality, as well as you got that mental toughness and the desire to learn more. So, man, there's going to be some really good things coming for you from you down the road.
And it's really neat. You stepped up, you volunteered to be an ambassador for the club, and I know you want to do some swim clinics with people, and I think people will just jump all over that. That'll be really a lot of fun. So
hey, I want to be first on that list.
Ethan, this has been great. This has been great to talk with you, and I really appreciate you taking the time as you're driving to San Diego to celebrate Mother's Day. So that's awesome. So really, this has just been fantastic to get to know you at a little bit more level, and it's really a lot of fun to hear your thoughts and hear how you're approaching racing.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to share with the club?
Just to have everyone stay healthy. Abide by the guidelines, but it's starting to look like everything's coming back out, which is good. But staying healthy and continuing to have fun, because once you don't have fun in the sport, that's when things go south, and you don't want to do it anymore. So as long as you're having fun and liking what you're doing, then that's all that matters. So
That's great. That's awesome. Well, that's a great way to close out this conversation. So, and my dogs are starting to bark now. So, hey, thanks again, Ethan. And this has really been great.
Yeah, it's been wonderful talking
Awesome.
to you, Ethan.
Thank you, guys.